Welcome back to the garage. I'm Robert, and this is Haslip Cycle Works. Today we have a different type of video. No bikes in this one, no real tools to speak about, but we will be going over one of the processes that we use here for the bikes. But I had a friend ask me to help him out. He has an aluminum cover for a piece of DJ equipment, and it's currently anodized red. He would like it to be flat white. So what we're going to do is go over how to strip that red anodizing off at home quickly and easily, and then apply a coat of white powder coat. I'm going to kind of take some of the mystery out of it for you guys if you haven't already figured it out or tried it yourself. It's not hard to do at home. Don't let anyone try to intimidate you and tell you can't do it at home. It's really easy. There's not much to it at all. It is a lot like paint though, so the part prep and cleanliness of the part plays a major role in the outcome of the part. So just keep it clean and take your time. You don't need to rush with this, and you'll have a great outcome. I'm going to get the parts on the table and show you what we're working with, and then we'll go kind of over the process. Okay guys, so here's what we're going to need to strip the anodizing off this part. You're going to need a container, preferably aluminum. You don't want to go using your wife or girlfriend or your mom's good cooking stuff. Dollar at your local convenience store for this guy here. Stainless steel, scrubby. You want the stainless steel, not the copper version, and you don't want the Brillo pad or anything that's got any sort of cleaner or additive to it. Just straight, wound up, curly stainless steel. The oven cleaner, no need to go name brand or anything. They're all pretty much the same. Heavy duty, of course. Yeah, it's just a chemical process to remove the anodizing. If you don't know, anodizing is on aluminum. Oh, this is the part that we're going to be working with. You can see it's kind of a translucent. That's how you know it's anodizing. And I've tested this piece with a magnet, and it's definitely not steel. And you can tell just by how it feels. It is definitely aluminum. So anodizing really is just the process of coloring an induced corrosion on the aluminum. You put it in a chemical vat and it creates these little structures, these hex style tubes all over the, like microscopically all over the surface of the aluminum. And then what you do is you put it in a dye, and that dye fills in those little tiny spots, and then you boil it, and it seals up that corrosion and locks the color in. So anodizing it's a good way to go. It's a little more difficult than powder coating, but that can be done at home as well. The most important part of stripping this anodizing though is your safety. You need gloves, and you can't see them, but you have to believe me when I tell you I've got safety glasses on. This stuff is some nasty stuff. If it can strip anodizing off, imagine what it can do to your skin. So we don't want to take any chances with this getting in our eyes or letting it soak into our skin, because that's a bad day. What we're going to do is go ahead and get our gloves on, and we're going to spray this piece down and start letting it soak in, and we're going to work it in with the stainless steel scrubby here. So let me get my gloves on, and we'll get going on that. Okay, so I'm suited up here. Got our part ready. Another thing that you want to do is have a second one of these filled with some distilled water, because to neutralize the active ingredients and acids in here, you're going to need water. So we'll get this thing down the bare aluminum, and then we'll rinse it off and let it neutralize in some distilled water. Another thing to note, if you leave a small part in this solution for too long, you will come back to no part. This will destroy the aluminum. Don't ask me how I know. All right, so hopefully our environment works out for us today. I've got the garage door open because the fumes from this are no joke. All right, let's get started. We're gonna give this a shake here. Lay this bad boy down, and we are just going to liberally apply. Let me get my welding helmet out of the way here. Don't want to screw that up. All right, we just want to go ahead and let this thing soak in, and you'll kind of start to see the color coming off of it. Stuff makes a mess, so make sure you don't do this on your kitchen table. Take it outside where it's well ventilated. All right, we're just going to let this soak for a little bit. In a couple minutes, we'll come back with our stainless steel scrubby and start to work that red off. Okay, it's been all of 2-3 minutes. And you can already see the color starting to run off. Yeah, it's definitely doing its job here. I'm going to let it sit. We'll watch it carefully because, like I said, you don't want to leave this in there too long because once it gets through the anodizing layer, it can start destroying our base metal, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to let this sit for a little bit longer. Okay, we're now at about 5 minutes. Starting to hit it with the stainless steel scrubby, and you can kind of see what we're working with here. I mean, it's coming off pretty clean, and the reason we want to get this off is it will interfere with our powder coating. Powder coating, the way it works is it's just really just a powdered paint that is heat activated, and we apply it with a gun. And that gun has a cathode in it. And what the cathode does is charge the powder with a different charge opposite of the part. So you essentially create static, is all it really amounts to. And the powder is gently blown towards the part, and it sticks. And it stays there, unless you bump it or wipe it off. And you bake it. My favorite place to get my powder coating from is actually the powdercoatingstore.com. Really good products, good prices, and never had an issue. So I'm just as anxious as you guys to see the final product. From what I can tell, from what it looks like in the bag, it looks pretty good. But we'll get this part cleaned up, and it's probably only a couple more minutes of soaking and scrubbing time. I mean, we're getting it. Been a few more minutes. I've been watching it and hitting it with the scrubby, and we've got it almost all stripped down. I've got my second pan of distilled water in the back. I'm just waiting for us to drop this in to neutralize it and clean it off. Let's see what we got going on. And you want this to be, like I said, this powder coat is a lot like paint. The more you put into the prep and cleanliness of the part, the better the finish will be, and it'll actually show. Put your comment down in the comment section. Let me know what you'd like to see or what you did or didn't like about this video. As always, any feedback is welcome. We'd like to keep the comment section positive if we could, of course, but I mean, if you think I'm doing a jacked up job, then let me know I'm doing a jacked up job, and show me the right way to do it. You know, all about learning. That's what I'm hoping this channel accomplishes, is we can all learn from each other, and people can kind of get over the stigma of doing things themselves. Like I said earlier, make sure you wear gloves and eye protection, because if it can strip this stuff off of aluminum, I'd hate to see what it would do to your skin if it was left on, or God forbid it gets in your eyes. So safety first, kids. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off now in our distilled water and see what we got going on here. I'm going to let this kind of drip here, and I'm going to drain this water out and put some fresh water in there. Got all of our anodizing off now. Everything looks really good. Gonna let it sit in this distilled water just for a few minutes, just to make sure we got it all the oven cleaner off. Yeah, we'll let this soak for a little bit, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to wipe it down with a shop rag, and a clean shop rag, and some acetone, just to make sure that any oils or anything that are left on this come off and don't affect our finish. Okay, so our part is all dry, pretty dry anyway. Everything looks clean. I'm gonna just hit it with some acetone. Just acetone in my all-purpose spray bottle that is acid safe. I touched on that in one of my first videos. So just going to spray this down and wipe it down with this microfiber cloth, and we're going to let it dry. Alright, there's our part all clean. Just to make sure that we got all that acetone off, we're going to let it sit for a couple minutes and start getting our powder coating gun and everything ready to go. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to dry, we're going to go ahead and, it's pretty much dry already. It dries almost instantaneously. But just kind of want to go over the powder. It is literally a powder. This is flat white from the Powder Coat store. Great place to get your powder coating supplies from. And here's the part that you really want to pay attention to. Part metal temp. Not the oven temp, but the part that the powder is being applied to must reach 400 degrees for 10 minutes in order for this to fully cure. If you don't meet that schedule or that temp, then you're not going to get a good powder coating job. So pay close attention to that. I'll show you what I use to check my part metal temps. Slide this over here, and link in the description, although you can read it here, but I'll put a link to this exact powder. This is what I use to check my part metal temperature while it's in the oven. Just a little infrared thermometer from Craftsman. It's good up to 500 degrees, which is above and beyond any powder that we'll be using in this garage. Pretty basic. You point it at the part, and right now we are sitting at 85.8 degrees. So every now and then you crack the oven, and you can actually watch, depending on the oven you use, you can watch the powder go from a powdered form to a liquid. That's called the flow. When it starts to flow, check your temperature. In this case, we're looking for 400 degrees for this particular powder. We set our timer once that occurs for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, we shut the oven down, we pull it out, we let it cool. Don't want to mess with it while it's hot because, well, it's at 400 degrees. Common sense. Another tool that's not a necessity, but does help a lot, is a good little LED flashlight. The reason you want to use one of these is after you apply the powder, you want to verify that you've got good coverage on the entire piece. So use your little LED light, check the part, make sure you don't see any metal shining through, and if you don't, then you're good. Another Craftsman special. Next is the powder coating gun itself. The one I have doesn't require a compressor. Fortunately, they don't make it anymore. It's another Craftsman item. I actually bought it used online. You'll see. And this is the powder coating gun. So not really anything crazy. Like I said, you can't find these anymore. It did work. It still works. Only have one cup, but the price of a couple of these replacement cups will get me a new Eastwood or even a Harbor Freight dual voltage one. So that is on the list. We'll be getting rid of this guy because it has seen better days, but I will be getting a Eastwood or Harbor Freight or some. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this out. You can see I've still got some red powder in there from residual red powder in there from one of my last jobs for a video that was based on the Kawasaki Vulcan 750 that's behind me. A couple parts on that. Did beautiful. Like I said, it's not a bad gun. Not the best gun either, but I don't really have any complaints. I'm going to clean this out, and we're going to load the powder in here. And you definitely want to wear some sort of mask or respirator or something, because this stuff is very fine, and you do not want to inhale that and get it in your lungs. Right, so now we've got our white powder in our cup for our powder coating gun. I've gone ahead and hung the part on my toaster oven, aka powder coating oven, on the rack that came with that, and just some solid copper wire. You need something conductive that actually touches the part for your ground to connect to, and this is what helps build that static charge. I'm going to grab that, hook this up, and we're going to go ahead and spray our part. So we've got our part here suspended on our rack and powder in the gun, and we've got our ground clamp hooked to our copper wire, which is touching our part. And during this process I had gloves on the whole time so as not to impart any sort of skin oils or anything onto the part. So here we go. This is as simple as it is. Now our part is covered completely. I'm going to use the little LED flashlight and make sure that we have good coverage and no shiny spots where we missed anything. It's important during this process to make sure that we don't move the part too much, because we don't want to lose any of our powder that's on there. All right, this looks good. I'm going to go ahead and carry it into the oven and get her baking. So we've got our part in our oven. Please excuse the state of my toaster oven. It has seen better days. One of the future projects for the channel is going to be building a large powder coating oven, large enough to put a set of wheels or a motorcycle frame in. So this is just temporary, but this will get you by just a standard large capacity. This one happens to be a Black & Decker toaster oven. Nothing fancy, just something big enough to get our parts in. And I'm going to set this 450. Go ahead and set a timer. I'll put it on for an hour and I'll check it. And if the window for my powder coat oven was clear and not caked with powder coat, you'd be able to see that flow out that I spoke about. I'm going to keep my eye on. I'm going to need both hands, so I'm going to set you guys down, and it's just going to bake. We'll get it up to the 400 and for the allotted time per the instructions, and once it's done I'll bring you back. Only been 2 minutes or so, if that. So I'm going to open it up and show you how we check the temp. Okay, we're only at 125, so we got a little ways to go. So we're going to close the door to keep the heat in and let her keep going. We have reached our 400. Turn it down just a little bit, and we will set our timer for 10 minutes. When the oven goes off, the part will be done. I'll pull it out and let it cool and show you guys the finished result. Part came out really good. I'm digging this flat white. This is pretty sharp. No real errors to speak of. Everything looks good and even. It's definitely see, not a very difficult process at all. It's all about the prep, and pretty simple. Actually, it's cheaper than you would think too. Anybody can do this at home. A few simple tools and some powder coat. Yeah, that's it. So until next time, guys, get up, get out there, and do it.